Hey there, my friends. It's time for another U-Design lesson with our new U-Design kit for A-star crafters. And today we are going to learn how to design these adorable, patriotic gnome layered SVG designs. Some of the skills you're going to learn in this lesson are how to create custom shapes from existing shapes like circles and squares, how to use the intersect tool for clipping paths into other paths, and how to freehand draw with the pencil tool in Inkscape, even if you are not an artist, as I am not. If you are new to SVG design for crafts and want to learn the fundamentals of this design and the Inkscape interface in a beginner-friendly, progressive manner, plus how to draw all elements from scratch, check out my free 3-part SVGs from Scratch series, which is linked with the description of this video. Now, in today's tutorial, we're going to learn how to draw our little gnome. And then part of what we're going to do with this particular tutorial is I am going to be featuring several elements from our U-Design kit, which is also going to be available below in the video description. If you're already an A-star crafter, then head over to our members area and that link is going to be below for you. And you can download this month's U-Design kit so you can follow along and create your own custom project files. Now, if you're not yet an A-star, come over and join us. You can get kits just like these dropping every month along with hundreds of ready-to-make projects, lives with me, and so much more. Let's get started with today's tutorial. Okay, my friends, we're going to be making these adorable layered gnome project files here. Our U-Design series is relatively new at the time I'm posting this video, and think of this as like semi-homemade. They're not 100% from scratch, but it's great for beginners. It's great to understand Inkscape deeper, and if you don't want to have to do all the work of every little element, that is where our kits come in. So we have a really fun kit this month here where we have quite a number of elements. Usually we only do between 5 and 10 elements, and this month I think I just got really happy with the red, white, and blue theme, and so this kit is going to be linked below for you to enjoy, and we'll be using a few of these elements in our gnomes today. Before we get into actually featuring the elements here with our gnomes, we need to build his body, his hands, his feet, and we're going to be building from shapes. So if you've, again, never been inside of Inkscape before, make sure you check out that series below. It's going to help you a lot. As you should already know at this point, when you're working in Inkscape, you can design anywhere in the interface at all. It doesn't have to be over the stock, so you're going to see me working over in the white space quite a bit. Now, let's get started with our gnome's body. Then we're going to move to the feet, the hands, and finally the nose, and then we'll dress him up in his own little outfit. To get started, I am going to grab the rectangle tool, and for me, that's the 4th one down. And if you're never sure if you're on the right tool in Inkscape, just make sure you're in the general location that I am and you're hovering over the tool, and it's going to tell you if you're on that correct tool or not. It'll say the name of the tool. So rectangle or R is the keyboard shorthand. I am using the classic light themed interface here in Inkscape, so if yours looks darker, just know that's okay, and it doesn't change the functionality of the tools, it's just changed the color of the theme. So with the rectangle tool selected, you're going to see your cursor change here, and currently I have like this really light gray color. I'm actually going to come down here to this color bar and I'll change it to black just so that I can see it a little better and you guys can see it better. So I'm going to click, hold, and drag here to make a rectangle. And my rectangle is going to be a little bit taller than it is wider. So what I have on my screen here is about 5 by 6.5 inches. You do not have to follow those measurements exactly, but for those of you who want to, that's what I'm starting with. The next thing I want to do is anytime there is a shape here in Inkscape, a shape being like our rectangle tool, our circle ellipse tool, or our polygon and star tool, shapes are not the same thing as a path, because paths can be edited by nodes or anchor points that make up the lines and the shapes you see on your screen here, so the objects you see on your screen. So if we were to click on our nodes tool over here, which is under our primary selector tool, click on our nodes tool, you're going to see a couple of different options here. These are handles that allow you to adjust this. And before I go any further, this one here that's on the top right that looks like a little circle, I'm going to pull down on that a bit, and it's going to round the corners. And if we actually go all the way down, it'll become almost like an oval. I'm not going to go quite that far down. I'm going to make it about like that. So just eyeball it. And then I want to convert this rectangle shape into a path. So when something is a path, if you look, go back to our primary selector tool at the top here of our toolbox, if you look under the color bar, it says rectangle in root, meaning this is not an actual path. If it was, it would say path in root, and we'd be able to edit by the node points on all sides. So to change this, you need to go up to path at the very top of Inkscape with that rectangle selected, and you need to select object to path. So I'm going to click on that. Now look under the color bar, the status bar there, it says path of 8 nodes. And if I click on the nodes tool, which is underneath that main selector tool in our toolbox, you see there are these 8 points that go around it. And we are going to be able to then change the shape however we want. We can change those line segments and we can change those points on our screen. This is a great place to start for the body of our gnome. So that's what we're working towards right here. I want to shape this out a little bit more to where I'm going to kind of pull at these node points and I'm going to shape it out so that it looks kind of like a little round body, a little more tapered at the top, and a little bit wider at the bottom. So you can see here, I'm just pulling at these. You can also pull at these handles that are between these node points, and those are the line segments. So I'm gonna pull these in and I'm just tapering it a bit here to go for a shape like that. You can actually click and drag over multiple nodes together. And if you wanna move them all together, perhaps I wanna move this up a little bit like this. Perhaps I want to smooth this out. If you want to smooth an area out with a node and you feel like it's really jagged, there's a couple ways you can do this. One is if I don't feel like this node is super important, I could delete the node and then pull at those handles and create that effect, which I'm actually really loving. So I'm going to do that. And this node right now, if you hover over this node and you look at that status bar, it says smooth. The job of a smooth node is to keep everything at a curve, like it's a soft line. But if you ever want to make a node a corner node, you would click on it and come up here to this one here that says make selected nodes corner. And you'll see it change from a square to a diamond shape. And what this allows is these handles here, you can then just change one side of the line segment versus with a smooth node, if I pull at this handle, it's changing both sides of the line segment. As this comes out, this is going in. So the corner nodes have a little bit more control over them if that's what you're looking for in the moment. As you can see here how this is like only letting me go into a curved line. And if I change that to a corner node, I have a lot more control. I can pull here and these handles will appear. Okay, so for a body shape, that's pretty good. I'm gonna go ahead and change this color. You can play with the color bar down here, but I often like to just open up the fill and stroke panel. So that's object, fill and stroke. And there is currently a black fill on this, but you may need to actually click on the flat color option and click the little arrow to reveal the color wheel. We're under fill, flat, color wheel. And let's change this to like a blue, okay, since we're working with red, white, and blue. So that's gonna be his little body, okay, that's where we're starting. Let's make his feet next. And instead of starting from scratch, what you can do is you can often replicate existing shapes that we just shaped out and then work from those, and it's less steps because we're not starting 100% from scratch. So I'm going to duplicate this piece here we made for the body. So that is Command D or Control D on your keyboard, or you can right click and hit duplicate as well. And it's going to make a copy sitting right on top of it. So you'll have to pull it off to actually see it. And I'm going to change the color of this. Let's make it a red. And I'm going to scale this down. So I'm clicking on this once with my selector tool. You're going to come to the corner and you'll scale it down. So we can scale up or we can scale down by click, hold, and drag. I also want to change the way this looks proportionally. I want the feet to be a little longer. So in order for us to do that, one of the easiest things you can do is just hover over either the top or the the top arrow or the bottom arrow and pull this down a bit and see how it's making it more oblong. It's kind of looking like a little shoe or a foot. I think I'm going to scale this up a little larger. Now be careful when you're scaling, notice I scale at the corners, but also notice that up here between my width and height, my lock icon is on. If the lock icon was turned off and it was unlocked like this and I was scaling, then it might look more like this. You might be stretching things, okay? So I prefer to have mine locked unless you're intentionally trying to change the proportions, and we were somewhat doing that here by making it the foot more narrow. Okay, so there is one little foot. And I'm going to duplicate this. So again, you can use the keyboard shorthand or you can right click and duplicate. And I'm actually going to mirror this, even though it's pretty symmetrical, but up here at the top, these are your quick flip, like quick selection tools for flipping things horizontally or vertically. So I'm just going to click this one once and it's going to rotate it. We could leave it so the feet are on top, or if we want, we could move the body so it sits on top of the feet. And if that is the case for you and that's what you want to do, then select the body and use one of these tools here. If you hover, this is your raise and lower selection tool. So I'm going to raise the selection to the top so that this is sitting on top of these other two objects here. So we've got the body of our gnome. Very nice start. Now, I am notorious for this in my tutorials, and I promise I'm working on getting better, but you always want to save your progress as soon as you start. So I should have done that as soon as I put the body on my canvas, and I failed to do so. So let's actually go up and hit File, and I'm going to save this as a brand new copy, Save As, and I'm going to call this Patriotic Gnomes 1.2, and we're going to save it as an Inkscape SVG, and then that way, every few minutes, we can just come back up here and hit File, Save, to update our progress, or use the keyboard shorthand, which is Command or Control S. Let's carry on now with his hands and his nose and his beard. We're going to finish off with his hands first. So as you can see in my example here, I actually did a few different hands. This hand right here was just 4 circles for the top and then 1 circle in the middle. This hand here is just a circle, but I'm going to show you how to make these hands because to me, they're my favorite and the cutest. So I'm going to show you how to make those. I am going to click on this rectangle tool again, and I'm going to click, hold, and drag just as we did to do the body. And I'm going to pull this down into a kind of rounded shape again. And then I'm going to duplicate. I'm going to make this a bit more narrow. I'm going to click a second time to rotate, and I'm going to bring it in like so that it starts to look like a little hand with a thumb. And then I'm going to click and drag over both of these pieces, and I'm going to come up to Path and Union, and we'll unite it together. And then I'm going to select my nodes tool here, and if I want to kind of shape this out and make it look a little bit more like, I guess you could say, a mitten, bring this up a bit. We could curve this a bit here. That's going to give it that feel we're looking for. Okay. We could also, if we didn't want all these nodes, we could delete one of them. Smooth it out a little different. So there's our hand, and let's change that to more of like a tan color for skin. I'm going to rotate this again and scale it down. For now, I'm just going to sit it here, kind of sitting on top of the body. And I'll duplicate this just as we've done before. We'll use those horizontal flip tools and we'll flip this. Okay, and I feel like it would be better if the thumbs were the other way. That makes more sense, doesn't it? That's actually anatomically correct. There we go. All right, let's work on the beard next. So the beard is where we're going to introduce the pencil tool and some freehand drawing here. Now, don't be afraid of the pencil tool. It just takes a little bit of getting used to. And one of the things that can help you is to actually go and look at images online when you're trying to draw something. And just like an artist would look at a landscape or a model of something in nature or in real life to be able to draw something, this is a very helpful way to get your eye to capture, like, what am I trying to create here? So I'm really just going to look at one of the beards I already have, but feel free to go look at other objects as well. And I'm going to change this to a dark color so that I can see it. And I'm going to freehand this, and then we'll clean it up and make it look all tidy. So I'm going to grab the pencil tool, which is about midway down in the toolbox, or you can click P on your keyboard. And start first by, you're going to click and hold, and you need to keep holding until you're ready to release. So if you just do this, it's just going to draw a line with a fill, and this is an open shape. But if we want to actually finish this shape, we'd want to reconnect it back to those same starting points, and now it is a closed shape. And that's what I'm going to do. So I'm not going to release my click until I've returned to the same point that I started. I'm going to start here and it's going to look a little shaky. That is normal. And I'm just drawing a bit of a scraggly beard. And I'm stopping and releasing my click at the same point that I started with. And it's going to fill this in, okay? Or it should fill it in. If it looks empty to you, it means you need to turn your fill on, which means you need to have this selected and have a flat color selected in here. Now, it's a little bumpy looking, so we can clean this up. The reason it's bumpy looking is because my hand, it was picking up all the motion in my hand. So every time I had motion in my hand, if I click on my nodes tool, we can see all the nodes that were created with that motion when I was drawing that path, okay? So to clean this up, the easiest way to do it is to go up to Path and Simplify. So when we click Path and Simplify, notice how it reduces the number of nodes and therefore the shakiness and the bumpiness of the line. And see how it cleans that up? Now you may wish to do this more than once, and I like to use the keyboard shorthand, which is Command or Control if you're on a PC, L, and that just goes a little faster. So I'm going to hold Command L for me and just kind of clean it up a bit more. Now, the more you clean it up, the more curve is going to come in, so just keep that in mind. And then we're still going to need to do some cleanup. So I'm going to come in here with my nodes tool and select some of these. I'm going to curve these lines out a bit. And we're going to shape this out into our beard. And then I may wish to, play with the curve of this. Maybe I want it in a little closer. Maybe I want this line curving a little bit sharper one direction or the other. If you want to add a node, double click to add the node. You can change it to a corner node, just as I showed you before, and have a little more control over where those lines are going. All right, so I have finished cleaning that up and making it look kind of like a beard there. And we can go ahead and change the color if we want to something that's actually like a little more like gray. I don't like to go too white because then you guys can't see it, but for the sake of that, we'll bring it over here. And we could pull at these arrows as we did before and make it a little more squatty looking if we want. And then this is sitting on top of the hand, so I'm going to actually lower the selection one step, and then again, and it'll pop those hands on top there. We decide if we want this to come up a little higher, we want to move the hands or readjust anything there. We can. So I'm going to delete that example I was working with. So you have a couple more steps here to finish this off. First, he needs a nose. So that's super simple. That's a circle here, the ellipse tool. So I'm going to click on the ellipse tool. I'm going to click, hold, and drag and just make kind of a oval, like an oblong horizontal oval. And I'm going to use in my fill and stroke panel here, this little color dropper tool that's at the bottom. I want to match it to the skin tone I chose for my gnome here. So I'm going to click on that. And with this is already selected, I'm going to hover over this color and it's going to match it, which is nice. And we'll bring this over here. We'll scale his nose down a bit more, just like so. Now, to finish him off, we just need to accessorize him with a hat and anything else that we want from the UDesign kit. So in the UDesign kit, you're going to see hat options. I'm going to include these hat options that I drew as well as a separate part of the kit, even though they're not really like they are July 4th theme, but So I'm just going to use this sort of like Uncle Sam hat here that's in the kit. You'll see it over here. And I'm going to grab this one actually, because it's a more updated model. And I'm going to bring it in here and I'm going to paste it. So that's Command V for me to paste, Command C to copy. And I'm going to scale this up to size and bring this to set it partially covering the beard. And then I'm going to lower it one step again so that nose comes forward. You might want to bring the nose down a touch or bring the hat up a little. And if we want to make any adjustments to the beard too, you can grab that nodes tool. Like I feel like this line should kind of round out a little bit more like that. And that's looking pretty good. So what other accessories from the UDesign kit do we want to add? Maybe let's take a look at what we've got here. There's ice cream, there's a rocket, there's glasses, which would be really cool. You can see that in one of my examples that I did. We could also try like a bow tie. I don't really know what's going to work here. Let's just grab a couple things and let's see what happens. This is where we get to play. And you didn't have to design these elements because I'm providing them for you in that kit. But if you do want to learn how to design elements like this from scratch, there's some similar steps that I went over today, but more in depth can be learned from that SVGs from Scratch series, which is going to be linked below. So we could have him holding a rocket ship. We could maybe have a little bow tie, although that doesn't make a lot of sense in terms of his beard being there. So I think I'm going to go with the ice cream. I'm just going to scale this up and I'm going to turn the ice cream cone here so it looks like he's holding the ice cream in one of his hands. And I'm going to ungroup this. So for me, I'm going to right click to ungroup these elements. I'm going to change the color of the base here so it's a little more pale and just stands out against the hand. And I might make the skin tone of the gnome a little bit darker just because I like more contrast, or we could go a little lighter. Whatever adds more contrast here, I think it's going to look better. Maybe I make the cone darker. Yeah, something like that. And I want this hand to sit on top. So I'm just going to bring that on the top like that. And now we have our adorable patriotic gnome, semi-homemade in Inkscape. If you wanted to add a little belt or something, we could do that. So let me show you what that would look like real quick. And that features our intersection tool. So I'm going to grab this rectangle tool again, and I'm just going to draw a long, thin rectangle. And let's change the color. I'll make it, we'll make it this red that's over here already. And I'm going to put it along the bottom here. Maybe we want to make it look like he's got like, I don't know, some sort of thick belt or some other part to his outfit, okay? So I just have that rectangle sitting on top of the body, which I made a copy of. As you noticed, I duplicated that and I brought it over here. And I just want the two parts that overlap. So in order to do that, I'm just going to click and drag over both the body and the top rectangle we have here, and you're going to go up to path and intersection. And now it's cut just that part. And I can bring it over here, and let's adjust the color. Once again, it went back to the default color because of the order that it was stacked on my screen. So I'm going to adjust it here, and I'll make it just a little bit darker. And I'm going to bring it up here. And currently my snapping tool, which helps me align things, is turned off. So I'm going to turn that on here at the top so that it kind of snaps into place like this. And I want to round this out a bit. So grabbing my nodes tool, I'm going to pull at this line segment to sort of round it down. And then I'll pull at this line segment to round it down a little bit here as well. And then with this element selected, let's lower that selection a couple of times so that it goes behind the beard there. And now we've got this look going here. And I don't know if I like the red now that I see it. I think I'm going to actually turn it into a slightly darker blue, and it's going to look like that. And that's how you can do that with the intersection tool. Now I got this guy all done here. I'm going to click and drag over him, and I'm just going to bring him up here with his buddies. A little too small. And if I was going to finalize all of this design here, then I would bring it over the document. I'll probably bring it over here, drag it down a little bit, bring these guys down here, and this is ready to go. So I'm going to do a final save on this project, and then I can check it out in my cut software and go ahead and cut this out and use these adorable gnomes however I wish. All right, and I'm bringing into my cut software here. I use Design Space, but of course you can use this with any machine that works with SVGs. And here is our result. Our patriotic little gnomes are ready to go. They are oh so cute. I would love to know how you plan to use them. Did you find this lesson inspiring? And if you're ready to learn at a beginner level, at a progressive learning path, then make sure you check out that SVGs from Scratch series. It's gonna really help you solidify your foundation. If all this seemed like it was a lot, it just means you're completely capable, but you've got to start at step 1. So visit that workshop link below. And for all of our A-stars, go and download your new UDesign kit. And make sure you post our projects in the Facebook group or send us an email with your creations. We cannot wait to see them. Thanks so much for watching, my friend. I'll see you guys in the next video.